Here we are on section 5-8, day 1. Let's see if we can do a few problems. This first one that I have here is question number 5. Well, to factor it, I'm going to take a times c is 24. Factors of 24 that add up to 11 are 8 and 3. I'm going to use the shortcut where, since there's no number in front of the x squared, we know that those two numbers are going to be the numbers in here. And once we get to this point where we have the factors equal to 0, we're going to set them equal to 0 and solve them. So I get x equals -8 and x equals -3. And remember, we put our answers in the fancy brackets, and it'll look like that. The next one we're going to do is number 6. We have y squared minus 10y plus 24 equals 0. Again, I do AC. I have 24. My factors of 24 that add up to -10 are -4 and -6. So since there's no number in front of the square term, I'm going to write y minus 4 and y minus 6. And then, since the last one we set them equal to 0 and it was just the opposites when there's nothing in front of the variable, so I know that this is going to be the opposite of -4 is 4 and the opposite of -6 is 6. Let's go to number 7. 7, we have 12x squared plus 5x minus 2 equals 0. I get -24. Factors of -24 that add up to 5. I'm going to go with 8 and -3. Now, since there's a number in front of the x squared, I have to split my middle term and do the whole process. Groupity, group, 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 plus sign between there. Greatest common factor looks like a 4x, leaving me with a 3x plus 2. Let's factor out a -1 out of this, leaving me with a 3x plus 2. Regrouping, I get a 3x plus 2 and a 4x minus 1. Since there's a number in front of the x here, I can't just do the opposite, so I'm going to set it equal to 0 and solve it. So -2 minus 2, 3x equals -2, divide by 3, divide by 3. So I get -2/3 on that one. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, divide by 4, and I get 1/4. So when I write my answer in the fancy brackets, it's going to be a -2/3 and a positive 1/4. Let's do number 8. Number 8, we have 3y squared minus y minus 14 equals 0. My AC equals -42. Factors of -42 that add up to a -1. I'm going to go with -7 and positive 6. Again, there's a number in front of the squared term, so I have to split my middle term. That shortcut only works when there's no number in front of the x squared. So we're going to regroup, group, group, group. Greatest common factor looks like a y, leaving me with 3y minus 7. I can take a 2 out of this one, leaving me with 3y minus 7. It's a very good sign when those are the same. Let's rewrite it as 3y minus 7 times y plus 2. And this one, I know in my fancy bracket I'm going to have a -2. But this one has a number in front here, so I have to set that equal to 0 and solve it. +7 plus 7. I get 3y equals 7, divide by 3, divide by 3. And so I get 7/3 with the -2. Next one we're going to do is number 9. I have z squared plus 9 equals 10z. We know that we need to have one side of the equation equal to 0, so I have to move this to the other side before I factor. has to say equals 0 before I do anything. So now I have it. AC gives me 9. Factors of 9 that equal negative 10 is negative 1 and negative 9. Since there's nothing in front of the squared term, I'm going to go straight to my factors as z minus 1 and z minus 9. And then, since there's nothing in front of the variable, I'm going to go straight to the fancy brackets. Opposite of negative 1 is 1. Opposite of negative 9 is 9. Next one is 10. 10 says n squared plus n equals 72. Same deal as the last one. We need one of the sides to say equals 0, so I have to subtract 72 from both sides. And we're going to be finding factors of negative 72 that add up to 1. And I'm going to go with 9 and negative 8. There's nothing in front of the squared term, so I'm going straight to the factors. N plus 9, n minus 8. Nothing in front of the n, so I'm going straight to the fancy bracket. Opposite of 9 is negative 9. Opposite of negative 8 is 8. Number 11. I have x times the quantity of 5x plus 2 equals 3. It'd be nice if this side said equals 0 so we could have our, it's already in factored form, but it's not. So we have to move this to the other side and refactor. So I'm going to take 5x squared plus 2x minus 3 from both sides. Gives me a minus 3 equals 0. Now I have to factor negative 15 that adds up to 2, gives me 5 and negative 3. So there's a number in front of the x squared, so I have to do it by grouping. Groupity, group, 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 plus sign in between. GCF of the first group looks like a 5x. GCF of the second one looks like a negative 3. Rewrite it as x plus 1 and 5x minus 3. One of my answers is going to be negative 1 because the opposite of that one, nothing in front of that x. But this one I have to set equal to 0 and solve it. So plus 3, and I get 5x equals 3. I'm going to have to divide by 5, and I get 3/5 for my other one. Let's take a look at question number 12. This is our last one. 12 says n times the quantity 2n minus 3 equals 2. Same as the last one. We need this side to say equals 0. We can't do these factors without it saying equals 0, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And then I'm going to distribute. I get n 2n squared minus 3n minus 2 equals 0. My AC gives me negative 4. Factors of negative 4 that add up to negative 3. I'm going to go with negative 4 and 1. I have to replace my middle terms because there is a number in front of the squared term. I get negative 4n plus 1n minus 2. Groupity, group, group, group. Greatest common factor here looks like a 2n, leaving me with n minus 2. Looks like I can take a 1 out of there, n minus 2. Rewriting it, I get n minus 2 times 2n plus 1 equals 0. One of my factors here, the n minus 2, is going to give me a factor of 2, the opposite of the negative 2. This one, since there's a number in front of the n, I have to set it equal to 0 and solve it. And I get negative 1/2. Thank you and good luck.